Welcome to the Kling Connection Travel Talks podcast, where travel isn't just a topic, it's a conversation. Hosted by Sean Kling, each episode takes you beyond the postcards and into the real highs, lows, and unforgettable moments from life on the road. You'll hear from fellow travelers, industry pros, and digital nomads who share their best tips, budget tricks, and stories that make you want to pack your bags right away. Whether you're a casual weekend explorer or living life out of a suitcase, Kling Connection brings the travel world to life, one incredible journey at a time.
Hey, Kling Connection fam, welcome to another episode. And today we have a great lineup of guests for you. This is something a little bit unusual for us because usually we're doing one-on-one interviews, but today we have a husband and wife couple named Zeke and Terri, and they have Zeke and Terri Adventures. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
It's an honor. It's an honor. So we have so much to go over with. We were talking before the show. You guys, seem like such a phenomenal couple. You have so much going on. You have so many pins in your cushion that I'm just going to jump right into this thing. And let's start off with, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Well, you say we're a phenomenal couple. We almost got divorced in January of 2021 and accidentally rebooted our relationship after 25 years. So if you'd asked us in January of 2021, we would not have been a phenomenal couple, but we have worked really, really hard over the last 4.5 years to rebuild that relationship so that we could maybe make it another year or two. That's how Zeke and Terri Adventures goes. We are San Francisco Bay Area natives. We currently live in just south of San Francisco in the Silicon Valley. I've lived our entire lives in California, and also realized that we live in a very interesting bubble, but it is a bubble. So we work very hard to understand how the rest of the world operates. And one of our shared loves is through travel. And we are very different people, as all of you will understand. Zeke is the outdoorsy REI cycling kind of guy, and I am the museum and culture and language kind of gal. I play tennis, so I chase after a ball, whereas he chases after, what do you chase after when you're cycling?
A good place to sleep in the dirt.
Exactly. I'm in a hotel. He's in the dirt. So when we were rebooting our relationship and realized just how different we were, we tried to find some common ground. And besides our kids, who are 21 and 24, our huge history since we've known each other since we were 10, one of the things that we had in common was our shared interest in travel. So we launched Zeke and Terri Adventures 1.5 years ago as a new business, something for us to work on together that we could also use as an excuse to go out and travel and inspire others over the age of 50, so other Gen Xers, to get out, get uncomfortable, and go adventure.
I really like that you're pushing the Gen X perspective, because Shayna and I on our show, Gen X right here, we're pushing it because we are coming of age where, we're starting to become empty nesters, and we're starting to get to that next phase. Some of us are lucky to still have our parents. I know I am, but some of us don't have our parents anymore. And it's time to put away the mom and dad changing diapers phase of our life to traveling the world. Now, as far as prior to starting this, what were both of your career fields? What's your background in?
Well, I'll go ahead and start. So I worked in and with biotech, med device, diagnostic, and digital health companies for about 25 years doing IT strategy and IT compliance. So really a world away from what it is we're doing now. In my mid-40s, I was looking for something different to do, and a friend suggested I get into angel investing. So I started angel investing with startups from around the world. Came to really focus on women-led startups or startups that had products and services that expanded the power and influence of women. And in being a part of that total bro industry, I realized that I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and it was all the bro show. And I wanted to I wanted to have other voices, other diverse voices out there. So I launched my podcast called Piloting Your Life. And after doing that and the angel investing and speaking around the world on the importance of diverse investing, investing outside of the Silicon Valley bubble ecosystem, I wrote a book called Piloting Your Life to inspire women over the age of 40 to design and live a life of our own creation. I'm a commercially rated helicopter pilot, and so all of my branding is around aviation. And that just led to, me having a YouTube channel and doing a lot to inspire women to really take control of their lives. Zeke, I'll let you pick up from there.
Yeah, so after college, I was in sales, corporate sales of some sort for about 8 years. And after 4 companies in 8 years and having, I personally had the wherewithal to look at the success that I had and go, I was there for that. I showed up every day. I listened to people, but I don't think I was the person that made myself successful. I switched gears. I became a police officer in a mid-sized city here in the San Francisco Bay Area for about another 8 years until we had a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. And after the first season of T-ball, I only saw, 30% of the games because I was working. As a police officer, you work weekends and nights and all that type of thing. We sat down at a restaurant with the kids at dinner another night of the week because we were so busy, and sketched out on a napkin how the numbers would work out. And most of my salary was going to daycare, and decided I'd become a stay-at-home dad. And so after 8 years of police work, I shocked them by saying, I'm done. And I started doing fundraisers, sort of back to my sales background, started doing school fundraisers and that type of thing, and did that for another 10 years. And then this whole video thing kind of started when I went on a bike trip. And I have to go back on the time frame. So I started a job in a friend who has had a wood shop on the Meta campus for employees to use, sort of wood shop for adults.
Okay.
If you're talking about crazy Silicon Valley company campus things. First. And we went into COVID, and they said, hey, we'll continue to pay you guys, but can you do some online content for everybody during COVID? And I was like, okay. So then I started trying to figure out iMovie, right? And then I went on bike trips with some of the guys, and I would sit in the tent at night on my phone and make a video from the pictures I took and video I took during the day to be able to send to her to show her what we were doing.
And that he was still alive
in one piece. Still alive and in one piece. And then, eventually we went back to the wood shop, and eventually that didn't quite work out. So that's no longer there, which is fine. They were very generous. And then we started talking about what we're going to do. And she said, well, those videos you were making? Maybe we could kind of expand that idea. So I went from iMovie on my phone to Final Cut Pro on my laptop, and off we go.
So it seems that, you guys were just talking about the potential of a breakup at one point, and it's video and travel that kind of put you guys back together.
Well,
the travel is what kept us together. The video might kill us.
Well, and everything else. The rebooting of the relationship, we completely closed the door on our relationship, and then we accidentally rebooted it. This might be a little racy. We rebooted it through sex and vulnerability and communication, and started dating again. And then before we knew it, it was like, oh, we kind of like each other as adults. We liked each other in 8th grade when we went together, and I dumped him. We liked each other through high school when we were friends. We liked each other. We were 21 when we tried dating again. We liked each other at 24 when we tried dating again. And then at 25, when we finally dated and got married at 26, we liked each other, but we were very different people at 26 than we were at 51. So we did a lot of work in that year after we decided to call it off to, on ourselves with therapy. And then, just through building communication and trust and being vulnerable with one another, because we knew we were going to be in each other's lives for the rest of our lives, because we have been since we were 10.
And we have kids together.
And we have kids together too. So he was super reluctant. I'm very entrepreneurial, and I'm always like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? What are we going to do? Might be my ADHD. And he, I was constantly like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I joke that in a really low moment, we were walking on the beach in Half Moon Bay with our dog. And I'm like, hey, what about launching Zeke and Terri Adventures? What about doing something to travel and inspire people to get out and take advantage of this midlife time in our lives when we're mostly in good shape. Our kids need us differently. I would say they don't need us less, but they need us differently. Maybe we're a little sandwiched, but maybe our parents aren't so old that they need us a lot, but we're not taking care of kids in diapers. And like, it seems like the sweet spot for us to inspire other people. I'm sure you've heard the term for a lot of people, they can't be it unless they see it.
Yep.
And so one of the reasons why I did my podcast is I wanted to showcase people who were doing things that were a little unusual to show to some people that other people are doing it. So see it, go be it. And so doing the same thing for with the adventure stuff. I would say of all the things that I've done, this is one of the hardest things that we've done. This has proven to be a lot harder. I think a lot of people look at us and are like, oh, it's so glamorous. You just spent 7 weeks in Europe. You're about to spend 7 more weeks in Europe. We have spent the entire summer producing videos, creating YouTube content, TikTok content, Instagram, doing the videos that take a while, brainstorming ways to market, sending postcards to the road to our postcard newsletter members or subscribers, creating travel bingo cards, all sorts of stuff to differentiate, to be kind of the Kara and Nate for midlifers.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's a lot more work.
I don't think people realize how much work goes into a travel channel. Shayna and I, the same thing. They think we just jump on a plane, go someplace, shoot a couple videos, and we're good. It's the furthest from the truth. There are times I'm like, why am I even videoing? I should be enjoying this trip.
Yeah.
And trying to find
AI
that
can
balance.
have this job. So the one thing though that I would agree upon that has been reinforced as we travel is the number of times we've come across some young person working at some place where we're visiting and going to go up the gondola to see the view and do all the stuff. And Terri is obviously very soft-spoken and chats and tells them what we're doing. And they go, oh, my parents need this, because the parents are sitting at home and they have, after X number of whatever it is, 20, 30, 40 years of working and being responsible and all those things that they've done, they've gotten into a particular pattern that they can't seem to get themselves out of, to go see the world and expose themselves to other ideas and other things that you unless it's in your algorithm somewhere. All the biking stuff in Amsterdam or the Netherlands pops up in my feed because obviously that's what I'm looking for. But if you're not looking for it, you never see it until you go see it. And then you're like, wow, all these people can ride bikes around and they do live and they don't get run over by a car. Oh, this is great. And on and on and on. So the number of folks that we've had tell us, yes, my parents need this, has been amazing. It's
all over the world, whether it's, the Sea to Sky Highway in Vancouver. Yeah.
And having had 2 friends that in the last year, who they're about a year or 2 ahead of me, one had a heart attack and thankfully he survived, and another had another medical thing that landed him in a convalescent hospital for like 2 months. You and I, this generation needs to get out and do things while we still can.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I mean, I think the part that motivated me, and you guys have a lot in common with Shayna and I. You guys have known each other since you were children. A little known fact, and most people on the Kling Connection don't know this, is that Shayna and I were born in the same hospital, less than 12 hours apart.
Wow.
And
Wow.
my mom knew her dad in school, and she was a cheerleader. I played football, and she actually dated my friend when we were out of high school. And of course I won. I got the better end of it. But to go back to what you were saying, Zeke, it's so true. The thing that motivated me was I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, and outside of Philadelphia, about maybe an hour outside of Philadelphia, 45 minutes. And I started seeing a lot of people I grew up with either not leaving the town, they bellied up to the bar and told old high school stories, or they started to die, whether they had cancer or drug overdose or car accidents or whatever. And it motivated me to say, life is really short. When you're 16, 17, you think you're invincible. And now, when you're a Gen Xer, you're like, oh, well, we're the next ones in line to start, seeing the Grim Reaper. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah. Me and my friends do these bike rides, and we tell other folks about it. And people will go, oh, I want to do that someday. And we shake our heads and, well, there's no someday. There's only today. There's no someday. Don't wait for someday, because someday's not going to come. You got to make plans and do it now.
So what was your guys' first trip that you guys decided to do this on?
Oh, so I'm going to have to go through chronologically, because we decided to do it like January 4th of 2024. And then we spent the next month setting everything up. So the website, getting all of the socials, making sure we just rolled everything under my existing LLC. So that business was all set up. We mapped out what we wanted. We weren't going to be able to travel until May. We went back through all the pictures and the video that we'd already taken. So we officially launched on February 29th of, leap year of 2024. I don't remember what our first videos were.
I think
we know they're bad, but
yeah, they were.
Everybody's first videos are bad. Ours are awful too.
Yeah.
So it was like Denver, and
we did one on home exchanges. I know we did that. So we spent the month of February in Palm Springs, California. We took our empty nest puppy down with us. We rented a place because we also played tennis at the Palm Springs Tennis Club. So we just went back through and we were recording things so that we would show some pictures and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it was like Denver and Palm Springs. I think we might have done. I honestly don't know.
It's pretty bad.
Isn't that awful?
Just start from what's released now and work backwards.
Yeah,
don't go back and see the early stuff. It's all on. We should actually take it off. It's just
because we have. Now we have 110 or 115 full length videos, and then in total we've got, including YouTube Shorts, we've got about 315 videos out there. So there's a lot of content.
So you guys have been really grinding, man. That's like a lot of video in a year and a half. I mean, that's wow. How many are you releasing? Like once a week? Or
so we're doing full length ones every other week, and then in between we're doing minis. For a while there, we tested out doing tranquil escapes. So we were doing 2 videos a week. Well, for a while there, we were doing 2 videos a week. Oh no, in Italy, we were doing a video a day. So
and that lasted 8 days.
And then we had a hard drive failure, and then we went to by city. So I honestly don't know how we did that. That was crazy. But so now we tranquil escapes we did is like 2 to 4 minute ones with just music of some of the beautiful places that we visited, whether it's a park or it's a museum. We were thinking that maybe armchair travelers who can't go to places would like to experience something. Those didn't go anywhere. We couldn't get access to the armchair traveler.
That's that dried pasta on the floor.
Yeah, all the pasta that we threw to the wall, that most of it just didn't stick. So, but right now it's a full length video every other week, and then a mini. So the minis are 2 to 4 minutes. When we were in San Sebastian, Spain, too much tennis, soccer, and running has trashed my knee, and I have osteoarthritis, and so I'm going to have a partial knee replacement in December. And this past spring, when we were gone for 7 weeks, it's the first I hadn't experienced knee problems, but it slowed us down. And that anything that slows me down is very frustrating. And we got to the point where we were in San Sebastian, and Zeke rented us e-bikes so that we could get around and see more. And so we did a mini being on the bikes and exploring San Sebastian. We'll probably be doing more of that on bikes. Zeke's the cyclist. I'm not really the cyclist. So we do kind of minis of that. Anything that is really kind of a shorter experience. We've been doing minis that are like 2 to 4 minutes. So to answer your question, full length videos like every other week. So we are just wrapping up all of the videos from our 7-week trip, which we did Paris for my 55th birthday in April. We did 4 weeks in a home exchange in Bordeaux. And then we went to south of France and we rented a canal boat and with our 20-year-old who was studying in Paris. And the 3 of us did the Canal de Gros-Nacet, the Étang de Thau, and the Canal de Midi. So we have 3 videos for that. And then we rented a car and went into the Hautes-Pyrénées, stayed in Visco. And then we went to San Sebastian, Spain, then to Bilbao, and then ditched the kid, and then wrapped up in Zurich to visit friends. And so those videos will probably be completely done by the middle of September, like released middle of September. We've been working on it this summer.
You have a a child that's studying in France, and again, something we have in common. My daughter's actually going to London this December to start to do some studying. So it's wow, a lot in common.
A lot, no, yeah. So that kid did. So they're starting their last. They're they them. So they're starting their last year of college at University of Vermont Burlington, in like 2 weeks. But they did Stockholm for the fall semester and they did Paris for the spring semester. But they're back in the States now. In fact, they're coming back home tonight for their 21st birthday.
So you're both very athletic. You just said you used to play tennis, and Zeke.
I still play 3 days a week. Yeah.
Wow, God bless you. It's Zeke. You rode your bicycle across Australia, right? From Melbourne to Sydney.
Yeah, Melbourne to Sydney's not across Australia. Australia's, I think, bigger than the United States. And again, it's one of those things that unless you go there you really look into it. But it was quite a distance. Went through the Snowy Mountains or the Snowy River Park. Absolutely beautiful. And the entire experience, it takes about 2 weeks on my trips. I've also done, in 2 different trips, I've done Seattle back to San Francisco. I've done LA to Albuquerque on the old Route 66, where there is a Route 66. It's not all there anymore. And unfortunately, we figured that out because when it's not there, you've got to get on I-40, which is an absolute just horrible. It's semi. Yeah. If you ever watch Cars, when they talk about the highway and the byway, well, yeah. I-40, and it was horrible. But when you're on Route 66, it's pretty cool. We've also done Natchez Trace, Nashville to Natchez, Mississippi, and then finished up in New Orleans. We've done the Empire State Trail, which I would highly recommend if anyone's looking, Buffalo to Albany to New York City. That's
in the summer, not the winter.
Well, I would go shoulder season. I'd try and avoid because it's a little humid out there as well in the summer, being a delicate flower from Northern California that I am. So we lucked out by missing weather in September. I think we did it.
And your next trip.
And then in September, we're going to do Munich to Venice. And we've also done Santiago, Spain, back to Lisbon. And people go, well, that's the Camino. There's a Camino, if you're familiar with the Camino structure. Everybody goes to Santiago de Compostela. And we said, yes, but the wind blows south. So we're going to start there and go south with the wind. We don't want to ride into the wind.
And where does your love of biking come from? Is this something you've done since you were a kid, or is it just...
Yeah, absolutely. I one of my earliest memories was I think I was 6 years old and I got a new bike for Christmas, and parents took me out on the street and I'm riding down our street with this bike and I turn around, look back and I go, yeah, riding the bike, and then I turn around and I ran right into the side of a car and fell over. So it's kind of one of those things early on. And then
you were also a latchkey kid, and you were
Gen
X kid, and
I was a paper delivery boy with the papers strapped to my bike. That's how much
with the bag, with the white bag.
The bag.
Well, that didn't stay bike for very long.
No,
yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, I rode a bike. I had a BMX with the Huffy tires and the whole bit. But 2019, I think I went and I read about this new thing called bike packing. New to me anyway. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I love to backpack, but getting north of 45 at the time, I was like, I don't like to carry all that stuff on my back, my hips, and all this, the pain and all that type of thing. Maybe I could just put it on the bike. So I took all my backpacking stuff and I figured out how to strap it to the bike. And I went to a local spot around here, semi-local, and I took a picture and put it on Facebook. I was like, oh, I'm checking this new thing out. And that night I was at one of the school meetings for my kids' high school athletic boosters. And a friend of mine was the president of the board. We have our meeting. At the end of the meeting, he goes, Zeke, don't go anywhere. And I'm like, what's going on? And he goes, what were you doing today? And I said, oh, I was trying this new bikepacking thing out. And he goes, really? He had done 6 weeks when he was 26, I think, with his brother all over Europe on a bike. And he goes, well, we should do something. We should do something. And I'm like, okay, right? And we should go to Europe. And I'm like, okay. And then I found, I used to receive the actual paper version of the paper. One Sunday was this trip somebody had done from San Francisco out on the train up into the foothills of the Sierras, across Mount Shasta to the coast and back. And I go, dude, we don't have to go to Europe. It's right here, right? And so we did that trip. And after 9 days and 700 miles and whatever 1,000 feet of climbing, I got back and my life has changed.
So how many bikes have you been through in your life?
Not as many. I don't have a stable like some folks. I don't have the budget for the stable. But I'm currently on a Craigslist bike that I bought from somebody who ironically was gearing it. He was fitting this whole bike out to go to Europe with his wife for months and months. Ended up selling me this bike, and he went and got him and his wife 2 Bike Fridays, which are those folding bikes. And he did like 3,500 miles on folding bikes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and I was also a little intrigued that you guys did something on a canal boat. Now, you had mentioned it before, Terry, but I've seen videos on these little canal, and now I'm not very familiar with the French canal system, so you'll have to enlighten me. But I've seen ones
We were not either. We were not either.
Okay.
That's the adventure portion of Zeke and Terry's adventures. We go, that looks like fun. And we get out there and go, wait, what are we doing now?
So these canal boats, did they look like the ones that are in the UK, like or
Narrow boats? No.
Wait, well, they're the narrow boats, but you can, I think in Europe, you can go on these boats. They're kind of like mini floating RVs.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Okay.
like it was a 38-foot boat, and it was a medium-sized one. There's probably ones that are a little smaller and ones that are a little bigger. And so 38 foot, thank God it had bow thrusters, because I didn't even know to think of that, but that saved my life in trying to park this thing.
So ours was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and it was 3 of us because it was our 20-year-old and then the 2 of us. I don't know how 6 people or 4 people even end up on these things. Sometimes they use the bench in the kitchen for like a 5th. It's like these things are not very big, and they are very old, and you don't have to have any sort of license. So they are covered with bumpers all around. And I think ours must have been like 30 years old. So much did not work. And the other thing about the French waterways, so we'd heard about the Canal de Midi. And so we're like, oh, let's go do this on the Canal de Midi. So there are at least like 5 different companies. And I was trying to do all the research to figure out where we would start, where we would end, how we could get there from Bordeaux by train, because we didn't want to have a car that we dropped. And so it was just like a lot of logistics. And we also only had a week to do it. So there were all of these different constraints. And so we ended up leaving from Bellegarde, France, which is kind of near Montpellier. And then we ended up in Le Sommeil, which is south of Toulouse. And what I thought we were on the Canal de Midi, and this is where I feel like we're idiots abroad sometimes. I thought we were on the Canal de Midi the entire time. We were on 3 different water segments. So we started on the Canal de Ronacet, which is in the Petite Camargue. So there are all the birds and the wild horses, and it's a very wild experience. And then the next segment was the Étang de Taux, which is a brackish saltwater lagoon that's huge, where they have oysters and mussels, and there are these beautiful ports, and it's a completely different experience. And then we ended up on the Canal de Midi for a couple of days, which is very landscaped, and it was just a very different experience. But we thought it was going to be very relaxing.
Yeah, we thought we were going to be on a yacht for a week, right?
Because there's so much in terms of they give you like a 15-minute tour of the boat, and then they kind of walked me through the map, and I tried to do a lot of pre-planning for it because I'm a planner, but I just couldn't find the right information to figure out where were there going to be stores for us to buy food? How much time would we have to go adventure off the canal? Because I wanted to see medieval villages and, vineyards and all this kind of stuff. But I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what's going to be open on one day. We left on a Saturday and got into Saint-Gilles, and things were basically closed down. We were able to get some basic supplies. We were able to get a crappy pizza, eat it on the boat. Next morning, there was a fantastic Sunday market, so we were able to get some more provisions. But then we didn't know where the next provisions would come from. We didn't really know where we were going to be, staying the night. Was there going to be electricity? Was there not going to be electricity? So that was a little bit stressful. And so we're trying to enjoy, but we're also very anxious about making sure that we are in Le Sommeil at 9 a.m. the following Saturday. So The next time we'll be better informed and better prepared. Although Zeke would prefer to do it not on a canal, but on a river and have somebody else handling everything. So really not that experience at all.
Yeah, that's a whole different experience. But the benefit of being on a river is that you can go in the water, because the canals, I think, also have a bit of industrial use to them, if not.
Oh, yeah.
So they say don't swim in the water. We could have swam in the Atondato, but it was, it's just one of those things where you kind of go along and you're like, oh, okay, this is what this is. But the narrow boats, we look forward to those. We did see one or two of those down there, but the ones up in Great Britain or UK or wherever they are, that would be interesting. And I've Googled it up. I don't think there's really a whole lot of other places in the world where you can do this.
Yeah, we've debated on the idea of doing the ones in the UK. I didn't know that they also had them in France, so I was just enlightened today that exists. And
In Belgium, I think in Amsterdam, maybe in the Netherlands and in France. So some of the companies, the one that we would not recommend is Nicol's Yacht. If you go onto their website, you'll be able to see where they go. There are lots of different options. There are 3-day options, 7-day options, 2-week options. And so we do have 3 videos on that. We also talk about, I think we have a video on the do's and don'ts, and we'll definitely have a blog post on that, including like the shopping list, making sure that you have certain provisions in advance. We didn't even know that there was an all-inclusive option available where you could pay for the fuel. It would have come with the towels. I mean, there were some things that was not very clear. I speak some French and was able to, that was also in English, and it still wasn't completely clear.
yeah, it's interesting when you get over to Europe, especially like how different it is from the United States. And one of the things that really gets me is the history. And I imagine you guys out on the boats or spending, the 7 weeks you guys were there, saw a lot of history. What are some of the highlights that you guys saw when you were traveling around that you really were fascinated by, or you think some Gen Xers should go out and try, or, just some really cool stuff that's not always on Instagram?
Well, so we spent 4 weeks in Bordeaux, and I mean, I love Paris. I've been to Paris 10 times. I'm a total Francophile. I think in my lifetime, I will probably visit every village and every city in France. Some people have bucket lists to see lots of places. I like doing deep dives into France. In terms of visiting places, going to a place like Bordeaux that has incredible culture, great transportation, beautiful buildings, lots of history because it's part of the Occitanie region. Bordeaux, I think it packs it all into one place, and it's also a lesser known area. But on the canal going to Aigues-Mortes, which had the ramparts and
It was a walled city.
It was a walled city.
Yeah.
That was absolutely beautiful, even though it was pouring rain when we were walking through that.
So we like shoulder seasons. I refuse to go back to Paris in July because the weather, again, delicate Northern California flower that I am, I can't take the humidity or the heat. But shoulder seasons anywhere, although those shoulder seasons are getting thinner and thinner, especially post-COVID. You go, and then there's the discussion of fast travel versus slow travel. And so we try and mix it up and do a little bit of both. But the home exchanges, we're able to stay in places for a couple of weeks at a time. And when you're able to do that, you're sort of able to slow down, and then you'll identify when the cruise ship is in town. Like in Bordeaux, you'll know the cruise ship is in town on certain days. And then when it's not there, it's not there. And you can feel the change in the vibe. And then there's also, oh, well, let's go this way. Oh, this is an interesting place. Everybody seems to be going to the left. Let's go to the right and see what's over there. And so you just sort of have an ability to kind of float around, and then you find some little place that's locals and everybody's nice. And you're just like, okay, this is great.
Which is why when we were in Bordeaux, getting back to your history question, we rented a car and we drove up into the Dordogne and Corrèze region that has chateau after chateau. So you don't have to go to the Loire Valley to be able to see amazing chateau and be able to just kind of breathe in the history of what it is. California especially is just so young. So going over to Europe, love learning about things that we were not taught in history classes. I mean, what we had world history junior year or senior year, and it just glossed over so much. So the Dordogne and Corrèze, because we were in one place for 4 weeks, we had time to go for a weekend and go explore. I love that you're asking the question about the history. I've been listening to the podcast Villains and Virgins, and I am now becoming even more obsessed with European history. And the podcast series I'm listening to right now is on Isabel and Ferdinand, but the last one I think was on the Normans. And so our spring trip is now going to be, it's now inspired by going to Greece and Croatia and Tunisia and Serbia and maybe Sicily, and doing all of that area because of this history podcast I've been listening to. I now have a better understanding of like medieval history and what the First Crusade was, and the Normans and the Franks and all of that. So now I'm going with like a completely different lens, and it's going to influence the way that trip is going to be put together. And it's more of an excuse to go to the cathedrals and the museums. Like I'm an art history, I'm an art buff, art history buff. He can only put up with so much of that. So we try to find the balance on that.
You're like Shayna. Shayna can only deal with so much history, and I can sit in an old church for hours and look at it. Because no offense to American churches, synagogues, anything like that. I mean, we've got some beautiful ones, don't get me wrong, but nothing beats the ones that you see in Europe. I mean, you're talking craftsmanship that's 1,000 years old in some instances, that some guy was up there with a hammer and a chisel, or doing this thing.
See it done either. He was never going to see it done.
Well, in Bordeaux, there's one particular church, and you appreciated this. There are some stained glass windows that were redone in the 60s, and so you have this, 13th century, 14th century cathedral that has these amazing stained glass windows from the 60s, and they're super mid-century. We live in an Eichler, so we live in a mid-century house, so we're all about mid-century, but mid-20th century. And so the juxtaposition of these modern looking stained glass windows in this extraordinary cathedral, it's so fun. He naps. So like you say that you like sit, he'll sit.
Nap. I'm resting.
You're resting your eyes.
Resting the eyes.
I'm absorbing the history as with my eyes closed.
Oh yeah, I mean, I really want to make the French trip one day, because a little bit of our family history is that my grandfather's cousin was in a parachute infantry regiment there during World War II, and he was captured by the Germans and he was executed. And in this town, they have a little monument with like a half a dozen paratroopers' names on it that were executed, and he's buried in the cemetery over there. So I always wanted to kind of make the pilgrimage to go over to where he's buried, find his grave, put a flower on it, representing from our family. So
where is that? What part of France is that in?
I have to look it up. It's obviously northern France, near Normandy. In that area. I have to look the town up. His name was Andrew Kling, and if you look Andrew up on there, he'll come up as a World War II casualty, and it'll tell you, and it'll show you the monument. I have to look up. It's a very small town, but apparently they do some sort of a ceremony there for those guys.
May Day? We were there in May. Was it May Day?
I don't know, but when we did our first home exchange in Paris in 2013. So our son was 12 and our other kid was just turning 9. We made a trek up to Bayeux, and we were able to see the Bayeux Tapestry. So when you're up in that area, I hope you get to go see the Bayeux Tapestry. It's absolutely incredible. I can't remember how long it is.
70 feet long or something.
Yeah,
wow.
That just tells the tale.
But to your story, we went through 2 or 3 towns, and I think it was May Day. There's a holiday in there somewhere about liberation or the end of the war, or whatever it is. And we would go into these tiny little towns that have like a post office and 2 restaurants and and a church, and that was about it. And there would be a little square, and all these flags and all this flowers and all this stuff is up, and there's like, we're recognizing what happened here. And it was either the young people in World War II that were sent off, because it was like all of them that were sent off and didn't come back, or others that were part of the resistance.
That's and you guys also mentioned that you were in Italy, which is interesting because Shayna and I just got back from our trip in Italy in the beginning of July, and we absolutely loved it.
Where did you go?
We went to we flew into Rome and we
Okay.
spent some time in Rome, and that was partially on me to go see the Colosseum and all the historical Roman stuff that was there, and then we went to what are the heck I'm at a loss of words. The towns that are along the coastline that are really beautiful.
Oh, like
Positano?
Chica Terre and all of those up north beyond Tuscany,
Um, uh,
Capri, and all of those.
but it was right along there. Anyway, it's built on the side of the mountains, and
Yeah.
it was gorgeous. Then we went to Anzio, and we caught a boat to some little island outside of Anzio. It's about an hour boat ride, and we swam around the island. The water was crystal clear, and Shane and I looked at each other and we said, "We could live here.
You could live there.
This could be our home."
So next time you go back, I encourage you to go to Umbria, which is in the center. So above Rome and just to the east of Tuscany is Umbria. A lot of people don't go to Umbria because they tend to go to Rome and Tuscany because of Florence. They'll go to Venice. We love Venice. We love Verona. But Umbria has a lot of, you would love this because of the history. There are all sorts of medieval fortresses, etc., up on the hills. And just absolutely wonderful. I took our son when he graduated college, and we did Amsterdam, Paris, Venice, Bologna, rented a car, went through Florence and Tuscany, and then we went into Umbria and then down to Rome because he's a philosophy major and he loves Greek, Latin, all the old stuff, Anyway, so but we accidentally ended up in a castle in Perugia, and we used that as the home base to go visit Gubbio. Well, you and I went to Gubbio. There are so many amazing small towns in Umbria, and people just don't go there. And it's like the fruit basket of Italy. There's a lot of fresh produce, and it's just fun to drive around. Not as easy to get to the places on public transportation. You'd really need a car, but so when Zeke and I went back a year, 14 months ago, I'm like, we have to go back to stay at this place. I want to show you Umbria because I could probably live in Umbria if I wasn't living in France, if I wasn't living in California. Yeah.
Zeke, do I see you guys getting a house in France soon?
You know what? What's better than having a house in France is having a friend with a house in France. So we're looking for friends.
Well, no, so I do have a friend who's been shopping for Chateau in France, and we have offered to we've been in various different places. We have taken pictures of advertisements and sent them in the places that we would like her to look, so that we have a place to, go either visit her or say, look, you need someone to go check and take care of the place. We'll make the sacrifice and we will go take care of it.
That's what friends do. That's what friends do.
We're such good friends.
So you also traveled alone, Terri, didn't you? Like to Nicaragua or something like that?
Yeah. So our tagline is navigating our lives in the world mostly together. Zeke has his cycling trips, and I am total workaholic, so I can get stuck behind my computer doing all the things that I do. And I was like, well, you're going on your 2-week cycling trip in Australia. That was Australia, right? Australia. I'm like, I get to go do something. And a good friend of mine lives in Nicaragua, and she and a colleague were putting on a kind of a marketing type of program for about a week. And the timing just worked out that it was before our big spring trip. And so I was like, well, why don't I go to Nicaragua for 2 weeks? So I did the program with them for 5 days, and then I stayed with her for about 10 days. And this was my second time in Hacienda Iguana, which is it's on the Emerald Coast of Nicaragua. So this time I flew into Managua. She picked me up, or she had a cab pick me up, and we drank wine and ate pizza on the way back. And because it was 2.5 hour drive. Yeah, it's a 2.5 hour drive away. And my goal now is to do that every year. I get to feel super creative in Nicaragua. It's just a completely different way of life. And in Hacienda Iguana, I know a bunch of people now, and it's just I can just be super creative and write and produce content, and it's good. But while he's on the Munich to Venice trip, I am going to be doing 2 weeks solo in Strasbourg. So I can work on my French and go visit museums, do day trips, various different places. I can write. And
this is where I like to remind folks that adventure is really of your own making. It's really something that's outside your comfort zone. So personally, I can go do a bike trip that she wouldn't want to do. At the same time, she's going to go do this language stuff that I am not comfortable doing. At the same time, there's 2 of my friends on my bike trips that went and did the Continental Divide. And I said, no, thank you. I'm not going to do that. Right. So it's all a scale. If you are at 0 and you have your routine and you've done your job and you've been a good person for 30 years and you don't travel at all, it could be going, for example, here in the Bay Area, go down to the Caltrain station and take the Caltrain up to San Francisco and go walk around. That can be an adventure. Get out in an adventure. It's one of those things that's iterative. And every time you do something a little bit more.
And it just did, you learn something and you expand. When we were in Bordeaux, we had terrible Wi-Fi, and we ended up finding a co-working place where we worked a couple of days a week because we were living and working there. And we also found a yoga place so that we could go do some yoga. And since I'm going to be all alone in, at least for a couple of days, I'm sure I'm going to meet people in Strasbourg. I've already found a co-working place and I found a yoga place. So I at least have a place to go so that I'm not, isolating myself, which could be really easy to do if you're jet lagged and feeling a little not so confident about your language skills or being able to navigate around. I'm an identical twin. I shared a womb with someone. I like having someone with me. So for me to do any sort of solo travel, anything really solo is a big deal for me. It's an adventure. And but at the same time, I've been to France so much, we've traveled so much that I feel confident that I'm going to be able to figure it out. My biggest concern is just really my knee. That's my biggest concern. So I can't believe I'm going to say this, but each place that we're going, I am going to look at renting bikes to make it easier to get around so I can see more. Oh, God, I know. No.
All part of my master plan.
Well, I know that like with Shayna and I, she is like somebody that is not afraid to take the risk. And, and I'm sure Zeke, you probably do this a little bit as former law enforcement. I'm always somebody that's kind of like checking out my surroundings and make sure everything is kosher, and having been in the Army. And like I said, you as law enforcement, but she doesn't care. She just jumps right in. And that's the thing I love the most about her.
That's interesting because as a woman, I'm constantly thinking about, am I in a safe place? What am I going to do? What if something happens? I'm also a planner with a backup plan to the backup plan. And it's just like, in the event that something happens, where do I go? What do I do? What number I call? It was interesting. Somebody was like, oh, that's really a big deal. You're going to be in Strasbourg for 2 weeks by yourself. And I'm like, oh, it just doesn't feel like a big deal. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, well, if something goes wrong, I was like, well, I can always call Zeke. He's just over in Germany. But I also know a lot of people in France. So we have people that we've home exchanged with. So in Paris and De La Fille in Tours. I mean, I've got friends in France, but it actually didn't occur to me to go, well, what if something happens to me? I'm concerned about what happens to him. I'm concerned about what happens to the kids, but I don't always worry about what happens to me. But I do have an awareness as a woman of not being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well, I can tell you what's not going to happen is a tandem bike.
We had a canoe along before kids, and we went out on Lake Sonoma. We're going camping, and we call it the divorce boat.
So how many states in the United States have you guys traveled to?
Oh, I think I've been to more places in Europe and other parts of the world than the United States.
10 maybe?
I think like 10 or 12, maybe 15. Yeah. California is a big state.
It's a beautiful state. We were just out in California earlier this year. Talk about crazy, and this will be the first I reveal this on any podcast. Back in March, Shayna and I sold our home in Florida. Just sold it flat out. Didn't have a place to go. The offer was something I couldn't turn down. And we jumped in our car and drove from Florida to California. And I had worked in insurance. I was an insurance adjuster, and it was just after, a few months after the big fires that were in Los Angeles. And so I went out there, didn't really do much work, but California was a beautiful state, and there's so much to do, and you could just spend your whole life in California doing things. But driving across the United States really opened up my mind and Shayna's mind as well, to just how big this country is and how diverse it is and how interesting, from one part of California to another is versus going to Arizona to Nevada. And there's just so much out there. And one of the things that we had talked about doing was there's a train that goes from Colorado to Utah through the mountains. And I've seen a lot of videos on it. And it was one of the ideas we had thrown around out there. So there's so much to do. But to get back to what I was saying is we went to California, and we were out there for a month, and we said we could stay here. I mean, it's a little expensive, but we could stay there. It was gorgeous.
No, were you just in Southern California then?
So we stayed. The problem was with the fires, there wasn't a lot of places to stay because people were Airbnb and a hotel. So we went down to Newport Beach, was the closest that we could get.
Nice.
And of course, I had to sell a kidney and
yes, we would too.
open an Etsy
Yeah,
store on the side to pay for everything. But we were in Newport Beach. We made the Presidential Library, Richard Nixon's library. Again, the history geek in me went out there, and he passed away when I was in high school. I was a senior in high school when he died. And then, we went to all sorts of places and just these little beach towns that were really cool. Everybody was so inviting. I think a lot of California gets a bad rap by television, because every single person I ran into in California, it didn't matter who they were, how old they were, was so nice and so welcoming. And more transplants. They were from, oh, you're from Philadelphia. Well, I'm from Delaware. Oh, wow. And my Uncle Harry. It's crazy,
Well, what we find is we're unusual in that, I was born in San Francisco. We grew up in the East Bay. We moved back to San Francisco after I finished my MBA. And then when our son was 1, we moved down to the peninsula, just 30 minutes down the peninsula. So we are 30 minutes south of San Francisco, 30 minutes north of San Jose. But most of the people that we know are not from California. A lot of people come, but we've also got a lot of tech here, whether people are coming for Apple or Google or to Stanford University. We're just 15 minutes from Stanford University. So there's a lot that comes in. So we are slightly embarrassed about how little of the United States we've seen. We went to Yosemite the first time when we were 40, and we've lived in California our entire lives. We went to Tahoe a lot as kids and even as adults. But last year we went to go visit some friends in Chicago, and rather than stay with them for like an entire week, because what stinks after 4 days, fish and guests, we expanded and we rented a car and we drove to Madison and we drove to Milwaukee. We loved Madison and Milwaukee.
So to your point, you only hear bad things about California. I would say you only hear bad things about anything because that's what sells newspapers and
right.
And the sound clips, all that type of thing. We went to Milwaukee and met the nicest people. We went to Madison and met the nicest people. We were in Chicago and met the nicest people. It was a fantastic trip.
And this is also why we travel, is because it's easy to just accept what somebody else presents as what they want to have us see as the reality. But when you travel, it's like a rubber band. You never go back to the way you were, because you learn about and meet other people. When we were in Zurich, we met up with a friend of mine who I had met 5+ years ago during the pandemic, but we'd only met online, and we Zoom called on a weekly basis. And he and his wife and 8-year-old had moved from Warsaw to Zurich. And so we were seeing them. He's originally from South Africa. We got together and we had dinner, and we weren't going to talk politics, but we ended up talking politics. And we learned about his experience being in the military during apartheid, voting against apartheid, and then being there after apartheid. We had never met a South African who had had that kind of experience before. He'd also never shared that with me. But having that conversation, having that dinner, and learning about Marta's experience growing up in Warsaw, Poland, and, her family, that's where her family was from. And he got Warner got a job opportunity in Zurich. And so they moved to Zurich and are building a life there, but trying to decide, do they stay because it's very expensive, or do they move back to Warsaw? So we love meeting people that we know in other parts of the world, and then meeting new people and learning about their experiences, because it makes us less of the idiots abroad. It makes us less myopic in thinking that our experience is the only experience. So
I can totally agree.
Part of why we travel is to just become better human beings, more empathetic human beings, so that we can see and appreciate how other people experience the world.
Yeah, that's a big thing, just learning about different people and different cultures and different places, because that's why you try to step out of your comfort zone. And now, speaking about learning about different cultures, you guys have you guys do, like, what do they call it? A postcard. So if I'm a person that is interested in learning more about you guys and getting that postcard, where can I go to get that information and maybe sign up for your letters and stuff like that?
Well, thank you for offering that up. So on our website, zekeandterri.com, you can sign up for a postcard from the road. And while we're traveling, we do virtual postcards. So we'll just I send out like little journals or whatever. But for our subscribers who share with us their physical mailing address, we actually send physical postcards from places where we visit. And we're implementing something where if not only everybody will get one, but if you share our videos, if you interact with us, if you do other things, then we will send more postcards. I don't think people realize, the postage is like $2.50 per, and then the postcards are like $1.50 or $2. So every one of those is about between $4 and $5 each, which we are happy to send out. But, I love sending, like, oh, we thought of you when we saw this, and sending just random postcards from around the world.
So if I'm somebody else that maybe wants to check you guys out on social media, I've checked out your social media. You got a good following, you got a lot of information. Where can we find you guys on the various platforms?
Well, thanks for asking. So most of the stuff is under Zeke and Terri. So Instagram, YouTube is Zeke and Terri Adventures, where we have all of our videos. We've been doing a lot more YouTube shorts around that. We're experimenting with things. So Instagram, Facebook, we're Zeke and Terri Mead. TikTok, we're Zeke and Terri. Patreon, I think we're Zeke and Terri Mead. You can buy us a coffee as well. All of this is all the links are on our website. So if you go to our website, sign up for the newsletter, you'll get an email saying, hey, give us your physical address and we will send you snail mail. So if you don't want snail mail, you don't have to. We never sell your information, but we would love to share more about what we do. But just go to the website.
And we'd also love to hear about those folks that watch something of ours, or even just hear this conversation and go, oh, you should understand or learn more about this place. Send us that stuff. We don't know everything. Absolutely not. When we're going to be in Munich, and I'm going to be in Venice, and that whole region right there, we're going to spend the time in Lyon. If you got some ideas for us in Lyon, pass them along. We're take anything.
Now, Zeke, if you had to talk to, I'm gonna break this up a little bit, but Zeke, if you had to talk to the guys of Gen X, about travel, what's one message that you would give them about traveling and about enjoying time with your wife or your significant other during your trips?
Well,
those are two different questions.
The perfect example is apparently the reverse dynamic of you and your wife versus me and my wife. You love the history. She loves the history. I'm probably going to push the envelope a little bit more on the adventure side. It sounds like your wife is going to walk into wherever and go do whatever. Not that you wouldn't, but so it's not really guy versus gal. It's again, I go back to everybody's got their threshold of what's an adventure, and accepting that, of course, going back to our previous conversation, the media wants you to think that some adventure is, I don't know, Chris Holmes or whatever, diving to the bottom of the Antarctica, or, some crazy stuff. Yeah, whatever he's doing. No, adventure is outside your comfort zone. So figure out what your comfort zone is. Go outside that, and you only have to do a little bit. One of my favorite bike rides is not 2 weeks long. From someplace that I got to box a bike up and fly there and do all this other stuff to get to. I can leave my driveway and I can go for 2 nights up into the foothills or the coastal range here that we have over to the coast. And when you're a biker, a lot of people go, "Oh, you got to camp. I got to get reservations. Oh, this is such a hassle," right? They have places that are called hiker biker spots where there's no reservations. You show up, it's like $7 or $12, and they go, "Yeah, okay, you're over there." And they have campsites ready for you. You don't have to reserve anything. And it's, I don't know, 30 miles away, and it's in the middle of the redwoods. It's beautiful. I'm sure that everyone almost anywhere is going to have some place that they can roll out of their driveway and get a couple miles out of town, or get on a local bus and get a couple miles out of town and start their adventure and get outside their comfort zone and do these things and then come back. And when I come back 3 days later, it's the best 3 days I've ever spent, because it's right here and it's so much easier. So whatever it is figure out what your threshold is for adventure. Go do something just outside that and just push yourself a little bit more. And then you'll start to find people. The more you talk about, because I come back and I'm jacked about having gone on a bike ride. So then I want to share that. I'm usually not the big extrovert here. That's this one. But when I have a trip, then I'm like, "Oh, I just went on a trip. Did you know that you could do this?" And people are looking at you and they're like, "Really? Oh, wow. Okay, cool."
Now, what about with your wife? He did ask specifically to the guys about your wife.
No tandem bikes. So traveling with your wife is you have to compromise, just like any relationship. You got to communicate what it is you want to do. You got to understand what they want to do. And then at the same time, you can go, "Oh, did you know that I've looked into that place that you want to go to? And if right around the corner from that, or that's got this extra thing that you can go do," and then tag on and make it partly your own, and then go from there.
And Terri, what about you? What about, like, from a woman's perspective and doing the travel at Gen Xer and also traveling with your husband?
So as Gen X women, many of us Gen X women were told we could have it all and be it all. And so we took it on ourselves to own it all. And that comes with a very heavy burden. And I know for me and a lot of women that I know who've gone through perimenopause or are on the other side of it and have hit menopause, we just either don't want to anymore or just don't have the energy, or we're picking and choosing what's important and where our energy is going to go. So my advice to a lot of Gen X women, midlife women, is to let go having to do it all and to lean on your partner, ask for more, demand more, and also use their energy and use their risk tolerance. Like Zeke will take risks I'm a calculated risk taker. Obviously, I'm a helicopter pilot, so I will do risky things, but I'm a calculated risk taker. But my comfort zone is like this, his comfort zone is this, and then I can lean on him to pull me out of my comfort zone, just as he leans on me to pull him outside of his comfort zone. So I would say use that. Don't feel the need to do it all. Now, I plan everything because I pay attention to detail better. I also care about certain things more than he does. At the same time, I will still steal his energy. I will still steal his ideas and have him pull me into places I would not necessarily go on my own. I also use him to carry the luggage. I mean, I'm strong, and I'm going to have to take on this next trip. We're both flying into Munich, and we'll be in Munich for 2 days before he meets up with his buddies, and I take the train to Strasbourg. I could not find an ideal direct train from Munich to Strasbourg. So I'm going to have my backpack and our 2 carry-on rollers that I'm going to have to navigate in some very, very tight connections. So that's going to be interesting, and you're going to owe me big time for that.
Yeah, my lawyers have advised me not to say anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Zeke and Terri, thank you so much for being on the show. I want to ask all of our fans, all our followers, to go follow Zeke and Terry's adventures. Go subscribe to their postcards on the road. It's been a pleasure to have both of you. You guys have been amazing. I really
we could talk for hours. We could talk. I know. Hours.
I feel like I'm having coffee or, a dinner with a friend, and who knows, maybe one day we'll cross paths someplace. We'll get out to California, you'll get to Florida, or maybe we'll run into each other in Europe or somewhere around the world, or,
that would be so much fun.
Who knows, maybe a bunch of us travel influencers will get together one day and host a big event and invite a bunch of people to it. But Zeke and Terri,
We're
It's
in
been
on that.
amazing.
Pleasure.
It's been amazing having you on the show. And if you like what you saw, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and click that notification button below so you never miss another Kling Connection episode. We're on every platform from TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and Rumble. And we're also, our podcasts are on Spotify, Apple iTunes, Amazon, Stitcher, iHeart, you name it, we're there. And make sure to go and subscribe and listen to this episode. And until next time, have fun storming the castle.
Yo.